What is the most unusual Bible verse? I don't know if it's the most unusual, but I always liked the fact that Numbers 12:3, written by Moses, says now Moses was a very humble man, more humble than anyone else on the face of the earth. Judges 15:16 And he found a new jawbone of an ass, and put forth his hand, and took it, and slew 1,000 men therewith. My fave is the very end of Jonah. Jonah is in the desert but found a tiny tree with a gourd to give him shade. After a bit, the gourd shriveled and dies, and Jonah must suffer in the sun again. Jonah cusses out the gourd. Right then God came down to Jonah and chastised him. Good, Jonah. That gourd existed by no labor of your own. Ezekiel 16:26 You engaged in prostitution with the Egyptians, your neighbors with large genitals, and aroused my anger with your increasing promiscuity. The story this verse is a part of fits well with the whole biblical narrative. But why that extra detail about the Egyptians? The king desireth not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines. If two men are fighting and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from his assailant, and she reaches out and seizes him by his private parts, 12 You shall cut off her hand. Show her no pity. Deut. 25:11-12. Song of Songs 4:5 Your breasts are like two fawns, like twin fawns of a gazelle that browse among the lilies. Genesis 27:11 is my favorite. My brother Esau is a hairy man, but I am a smooth man. But do not put it in water. 2 So I bought underwear as the Lord instructed me and put it on. B. And go at once to the Euphrates. C. And hide it in a rocky crevice. 5 So I went and hid it by the Euphrates, as the Lord commanded me. Go at once to the Euphrates and get the underwear that I commanded you to hide there. 7 So I went to the Euphrates and dug up the underwear and got it from the place where I had hidden it, but it was ruined of no use at all. 8 Then the word of the Lord came to me. 9 This is what the Lord says, just like this I will ruin the great pride of both Judah and Jerusalem. TLDR God had a man bury underwear and then retrieve it after a long time to prove a point. I have always been partial to Jeremiah 10:5. Like a scarecrow in a cucumber field. Their rifles cannot speak, they must be carried because they cannot walk. Do not fear them, they can do no harm nor can they do any good. I love the comparison to scarecrows in a field, but specifically a cucumber field. How random. He said to Jacob, let me eat some of that red stuff, because I'm exhausted. Genesis 25:30 Something about the way this is worded makes it seem strange. Ecclesiastes 10:19 A feast is made full after wine makes life merry, and money is the answer for everything. And it said to Balaam, what have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times? This one is weird even with context. He turned around, looked at them and called down a curse on them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the boys. My personal favorite is Song of Solomon 5:4. Web translation is my beloved thrust his hand in through the latch opening. My heart pounded for him. Which already sounds kinky AF. But I particularly like how the KJV describes this butterflies in the stomach feeling. My beloved put his hand by the hole of the door, and my bowels were moved for him. No one whose testicles are crushed or whose male organ is cut off shall enter the assembly of the Lord. Deuteronomy 23:1. He that blesseth his friend with a loud voice, rising early in the morning, it shall be counted a curse to him. Proverbs 27:14. She lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys and whose emission was like that of horses. Ezekiel 23:20 Turns out, It's just a prank. I was only joking. Proverbs 26:18-19. New International Version. If a man beats his male or female slave with a rod and the slave dies as a direct result, he must be punished. But he is not to be punished if the slave gets up after a day or two, since the slave is his property. Exodus 21:20-21. But one of those who stood by drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. And Jesus said to them, "Have you come out as against a robber, with swords and clubs to capture me? Day after day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me. But let the scriptures be fulfilled." With nothing but a linen cloth about his body. And they seized him. But he left the linen cloth and ran away naked. Question mark? Question mark? Many verses, but I love them. Leviticus 15:19. When a woman has a regular flow of blood, the impurity of her monthly period will last 7 days. And anyone who touches her will be unclean till evening. 20. Anything she lies on during her period will be unclean. And anything she sits on will be unclean. 21. Whoever touches her bed must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean till evening. 22. Whoever touches anything she sits on must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean till evening. 23. Whether it is the bed or anything she was sitting on, when anyone touches it, he will be unclean till evening. 24. If a man lies with her and her monthly flow touches him, he will be unclean for 7 days. Any bed he lies on will be unclean. And on until. 29. On the 8th day she must take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons and bring them to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting. 30. The priest is to sacrifice one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. In this way he will make atonement for her before the Lord for the uncleanness of her discharge. Edit. And those crying about childbirth and missing verses, calm down. The post was asking for crazy Bible verses. And 29 and amp 30 fit on their own merit. Proverbs 25:16. If you find honey, eat just enough, too much of it, and you will vomit like sure. It's practical advice. But one Sunday it was the verse of the day for our Sunday school lesson. Given all the verses available in the Bible, it seemed like a strange choice. Judges 4. Barak routs Sisera's army and sends him fleeing for his life to the tent of Heber, trusting in an alliance they had. Jael. Heber's wife invites Sisera in and encourages him to lie down and rest. But Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and a hammer and went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep. Exhausted, she drove the peg through his temple into the ground, and he died. Judges 4:21. One of the most metal verses in the Bible. Luke 1:11-64. It's a long story, but you need the background. Zechariah the priest was told by an angel that his wife would bear him a son, who would be John the Baptist. He was skeptical, and the angel made him mute until the time came to name the boy. Because you did not believe my words, which will come true at their appointed time. Finally, the baby was born. Naturally, there were lots of people around to give advice. Zechariah's wife, Elizabeth, said the baby's name would be John. This bugged the rest of the family members. To find out what he would like to name the child, he asked for a writing tablet. And to everyone's astonishment he wrote, "His name is John." Immediately his mouth was opened and his tongue set free, and he began to speak, praising God. Zechariah was mute, not deaf. Give strong drink unto him that is ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of heavy hearts. Let he who is in poverty drink, and remember his misery no more. Proverbs 31:6-7. This is not sound medical advice. This one always killed me. Genesis 19:4-9. New International Version. Nuh. 4. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. 5. They called to Lot. Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have hanky-panky with them. 6 Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him. 7 and said, "No, my friends, don't do this wicked thing." 8 Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. Jesus wept. I remember as a kid the boys in Sunday school would say that was their favorite Bible verse cause it is the shortest and they could finish their assignment to write their favorite Bible verse ASAP lol. Proverbs 21:19 It's better to live alone in the desert than with a quarrelsome, complaining wife. Now Lot went up out of Zoar and settled in the hills with his 2 daughters. For he was afraid to stay in Zoar, so he lived in a cave with his 2 daughters. And the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is not a man on earth to come into us after the manner of all the world. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, so that we may preserve offspring through our father." So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she rose. On the next day, the firstborn said to the younger, "Look, I lay last night with my father, let us make him drink wine tonight also, then you go in and lie with him, so that we may preserve offspring through our father." So they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger rose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she rose. Thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. The firstborn bore a son, and named him Moab. He is the ancestor of the Moabites to this day. The younger also bore a son and named him Ben-Ammi. He is the ancestor of the Ammonites to this day. Genesis 19:30-38. NRSV. 12 This is the plague with which the Lord will strike all the nations that fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh will rot while they are still standing on their feet. Their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongues will rot in their mouths. 13 On that day people will be stricken by the Lord with great panic. They will seize each other by the hand and attack one another. Zechariah 14:12-13 Zombie apocalypse. Anyone? Do not wear clothing woven of 2 kinds of material. Leviticus 19:19 She lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys and whose emission was like that of horses. Literally anything from the Hawaiian Pidgin interpretation. If you have the Bible app, change your language to Hawaiian Pidgin. Here's a few of my favorites. All da time you gotta go all out fo be good. Jalikio a fader in da sky. He every time go all out fo be good. Matthew 5:48 HPB So Satan go by him and preach to him. He tell Jesus, "So, what? You God boy fo real kind? Den tell these Roxy fo come food." Matthew 4:3 HPB If somebody make hanky panky with one animal jalak as one wahine, you guys gotta kill daga and our animal. Pre-Eases 2015 HPB. The entirety of Revelation. Edit, spelling. Happy is the one who takes your babies and smashes them against the rocks. Psalms 137:9 NLT. A good example of a verse taken out of context.
Hi there. Look, if you enjoyed the video, well, why not go ahead and hit that like and subscribe to Reddit Stories. In fact, if you want to see even more responses to this thread, well then, take a look. There's the link in the description below. And remember, show some love to those authors while you're there. And I look forward to seeing you next time.